Hey everyone, and welcome back to Gone to Florida. Thank you so much for joining us today as we look at Universal Orlando Resort and 5 places that we feel like are very overlooked and underrated when you come to the parks. We know there are so many fun things to do, but we definitely don't want you to miss out on these things that you might just miss out on if you're not looking for them or truly trying to appreciate them. So let's jump right in with one of our top 5 spots that's overlooked and underrated, the Popeye area. So this area is in Islands of Adventures, Toon Lagoon. There is a ride, Bluto's barge. It's like a rampage. There, I think, are 12 seats that take you down this river rapid adventure. It's somewhat thrilling. There's no huge drops or anything, but let me just tell you that I have never gotten this wet on any ride in any theme park. There is no seat that is safe. The ride is going to get you drenched. So just be ready for that. If you're like me, I'm for sure wearing a poncho, but it is absolutely so fun. But the thing is about this area, it's not just a ride. If you go a little past the ride, there's the Me Ship the Olive. There goes the ride right there. And you can see the ride from the ship. And it's also like a little play area for kids. You can go in and there's just little places to explore. There's maybe steering wheels to turn and things to peek into or buttons to push. It's also out of the heat. This video was taken on a day when it was super duper hot. And so just going inside was nice because it was a little bit refreshing. And even some of the props there, like you see a box or stairs, there's some places that you can just sit if you want to rest. And it is multi-level. So as you go up, not only can you see the ride, but it has a beautiful view of the entire park. You can see the lagoon. You can see the Jurassic Park land. Like, it has a great view of the Velocicoaster. It is one of the quiet spots that you can go to. If you don't want to go on the boat, you can go down below. And something that I enjoyed doing way more than I should have is that they have these water shooters that you can stand at. And as people go by on the Bluto ride, you can actually shoot them. And it was super fun. People did not expect it, and you could see. And really, it was fun because they didn't care. It wasn't like we were getting people wet. Who were trying to stay dry, because again, you're going to get drenched on that ride no matter where you sit. But right there are some shooters, and it's just super fun. And you can stand there and enjoy the view. So we love this area. And then you can go down below, and there's just like the walking bridge that you can stand on. You've got just close-up views of the water. And it is just such a gorgeous space. The water, I love the noise. It's just really calming. And it's actually really pretty at night. It's kind of lit up. And as you can see here, it's not very crowded. So if you want to get away, especially, I just think like if you had little children and sometimes the heat is too much or the crowds are too much and you just want to take a minute and give them time to do their thing, away from the crowds, away from the heat, this is just an incredible place to come to. But again, it's really fun for not just kids, because I had so much fun shooting the water and just looking around. But see, they just have different things that you can pretend to do, and it's kind of like an old school vibe, because I know a lot of kids probably aren't like completely aware of the Popeye cartoons and those characters, and they do have, of course, things in the gift shops for Popeye, but this is just, look at that view. I mean, this is one of the best views in the park. And then we also have the Hard Rock Cafe, which is at Universal City Walk. Now, this is the area that is between the parks. You can just walk across. And I definitely don't think that you miss out on seeing Hard Rock. Like, you can't miss it. It is actually the biggest Hard Rock cafe in the world, though. So that's one reason that I feel like you shouldn't overlook it, because you can say, hey, I've been to the biggest one. And it is really good. The food there was spectacular when we ate there. The lines, of course, can get very long. So clearly people aren't necessarily overlooking it, but I think that we're overlooking the things that can make it so special. Like, a lot of people don't know it's the biggest one in the world. That makes it more interesting. And as we look around here, if you go to the back, and we just happened to watch, I think, somebody else's video that told us about this. If we hadn't have, I don't know that we ever would have found it. But again, this is a very quiet, shaded walk. If you walk back behind Hard Rock, you will find a piece of the Berlin Wall. I don't really know why it's there. I don't know how they obtained it. I think it probably tells us on the sign, but I've kind of forgotten, to be honest. But it's super cool. Like, you would never expect it to be back there, but it's just such a cool piece of history. And then there's just like this area where you can sit and hang out next to it, which is really cool. And this is just not something that I think most places have. Of course, there's a lot of Hard Rock memorabilia for things that you would imagine Hard Rock to have. But like the Berlin Wall, come on. And so it does tell you about it. And it's just that standard, piece there, but it's still really cool. And again, not only is it cool, but you can go back there, never crowded. Like, I've never seen anybody else back there. And you can see it. And again, it's just a beautiful building. It is absolutely stunning at night, great food. Just don't overlook what's truly amazing about it. The next thing that we feel like is super overlooked is the Bourne Stuntacular. This is a show, and it is right past the Today Cafe as you go onto Hollywood Boulevard. Now, we don't have any footage of the show because you're not supposed to record, but there's the outside of it. And I think that this is overlooked because maybe people aren't even aware that it's there. Like, we just happen to be like, oh, what is this? Some people love it because it is a break from the heat. It is a sit-down show. Like, you have a line and then you have a stand-up, like, pre-show for a few minutes. But then you have just a sit-down show, and it's about 20 minutes long. And oh my goodness, it is based on the Bourne movies. I think there's like 3 movies starring Matt Damon. And it kind of goes based off what happens in the movies and that character. It is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I can't imagine that there's anybody who would not love this show. It is a combination of real life actors with a huge screen behind it, and they actually interact. And so it is super cool. You actually exit the Bourne Stuntacular through the same store that you exit the horror makeup show. So they all come there together at the Five and Dime. So it's in that area that you can see here. But it is a can't miss. They have several show times per day, so you can definitely catch one whatever day you're there. But we highly, highly recommend this. Like, we can't imagine anybody not liking it, and we don't want you to overlook the fact that it's there. Now, this next one, if you're looking and you're saying there's no way Fast and Furious deserves to be overlooked because it's a terrible ride, we don't disagree with you. But the thing is, there's so much focus on how bad the ride is. And just the fact that I think that it was so hyped up because it was Fast and Furious and you had all of the actors who were making appearances in there. The ride gets talked about so badly that I think everything else about this gets overlooked, especially if you have never been. Even if there's a long line and you're like, oh, I don't want to wait for 50 minutes in a line for something that everybody says is terrible, it's definitely worth going through one time because, as you can see here, it has a really cool queue. It has different sets that are from the movie or like to replicate what happens in the movies. If you're a car person, which I'm not really a car person and I even think it's cool, there's like this huge garage that has all different cars from the movies or replicas from the movies. Even when you exit, there's some cars sitting there. And so, of course, you can get videos and pictures of that. There's this great like musical vibe going. I think the truck that I know we've seen like videos of HHN where it's sitting out and it's playing the music, maybe like in the New York area, I think is where we saw it before. I think that's actually housed in here, but it's like the coolest garage, like huge, full of cars, full of life, probably full of tons of Easter eggs and things from the movies. I know we've definitely seen some ourselves, and just Easter eggs from rides that have been there previously. But you don't want to overlook this and just focus on the ride. So like the queue is cool. And also they have like this pre-show. You go into 2 different rooms. And there's people in there talking. Sometimes it's a man, sometimes it's a woman. Whoever it is, they always do a great job. It's kind of funny. They interact with like the people in the movies who are on a screen, and they're talking to us in these rooms. And it goes by pretty quickly. It's not like some long, boring pre-show. You get to go in and just kind of be in there for a few minutes to set up what's going to happen on the ride. And so it's really good to go in there just to see that. And then once you get on the ride, they call it the party bus. We're supposed to go, I guess, with them to a party on this party bus. And so you're driving, and actually the scenery within the ride itself is pretty cool, like the actual physical set. At the beginning of the ride and at the end of the ride, you go through these physical sets. There's a look at the pre-show that I was talking about, and you go through these physical sets, and it's actually really cool looking. Like, I wish the whole ride would just do something more like that. It felt like if you ever rode Confrontation back in the 90s when they had it, it gave me those vibes because you were actually like going through the city. The only horrible part is the actual ride. So we definitely think you should take the time to go through the queue and appreciate what's there. Now, when you get outside of the ride, you're going to be in that San Francisco area, which leads us to our next place that we don't want you to overlook. When it says The Wharf, there is a store here, and it has so many different things in it. It's like a candy store. It has tables outside from it, so there's a nice place to sit. It's one of the prettiest views in the entire park because you're sitting there and you're looking. But the Candy Factory is one that, you know, maybe you're not really thinking, oh, okay, I don't really want any candy. But when you go in, it does actually have more merchandise than you would think, from Minions, from Jaws, because it's the San Francisco area where you have Shea Alcatraz and you have Bruce the Shark there. So there's quite a bit of Jaws merchandise, and there's some Minion merchandise. I think there's maybe even some Simpsons merchandise, if I'm not mistaken. And then it does have just bagged candy. Oh, there's some Trolls merchandise. It also has like bakery candy. It's attached to like Richter's, the restaurant. So you could also enter this store to go to Richter's, but it has some baked good candies, and it's just really refreshing. You know, I always, for some reason, when we're walking here, like to Diagon Alley or Men in Black or something, and we're passing this way, I get really hot. And so going in there is just really refreshing. You're able to find several different things that you might just want to get for a snack in there. You can buy drinks. I don't think they have the Freestyle, but there is one like right outside in the San Francisco area that you can use by the bakery. But see, they have all these sweet treats, and I feel like it just kind of gets overlooked because there's so many places in Universal that sells things like this, that it's not like the first place maybe that you think of. But then, like, if you get one of these treats, you can go sit at one of those tables that are right outside, and it's just so refreshing. We've done that before. It's just a nice place to take a break, and we absolutely love it. So these are just our top 5. Please share with us if you have more. Thank you again for joining us on Gone to Florida. And no matter what, remember, never stop exploring.